One of the biggest hurdles that we always have to overcome is the Department of Planning and Permitting.
Dun, dun, dun.
DPP. And we get a call from the inspector.
A neighbor had been complaining.
This guy lives
On another street.
on another street, like 3 houses down.
Yeah. But babe, did he call one time?
This guy was calling DPP all the time. It ended up getting escalated to the boss of our inspector. It was a nightmare. What's up?
What's up?
What the hell are we doing right now?
We're going to deep dive. We're going to give the people what they want.
So deep dive on this house.
On this house, we're going to do segments where we deep dive on all of our deals, especially like the amazing ones and then the really shitty ones, right?
Yeah.
Where we just break it all down from acquisition, renovation, disposition, and everything in between.
Nice.
That should be the tagline.
Disposition and everything in between.
Acquisition, renovation, disposition, and everything in between.
I love it. Okay, let's do it then. All right, so with any deal, you have to first get what?
The lead.
The lead. So how did we even get Eliana? So it's an interesting story because it actually started with one of our other projects.
Oh,
Right?
yes. I yes.
So we're in contract on a house, a pocket listing. We got it off market with a house in Aiea, which we'll probably talk about too, right? Uhaloa.
Yeah, that was a killer deal. It was
Yeah, we
amazing.
loved that. That was such a good deal.
Such a vibe.
Everything was just smooth.
All of it was an
Yeah,
amazing
it was a
project.
win.
Yeah.
So when we walked into that house at first,
You were getting a bid.
I was getting a bid, right?
to
Because
clean
the
it out.
house was hoarded out.
To the
There
nines. To the nines.
Dude, there was stuff 5 feet high
Yeah.
all over the house. Like
Yeah.
only little
Alleyway.
pathways
Yep.
to like the TV, the chair, and the kitchen.
To get to each room.
Right.
Yeah. It was bad.
Right. So in that process, we're like, okay, we got to get all this stuff out of here. Why don't we call a junk removal company to come in and do that?
Right.
When the junk removal company came, I was talking story with the owners, and a light bulb went off in my head. Something clicked.
Yeah.
And I was like, thinking about it, what a crazy idea this is, right? But the junk removal companies are literally the first people on the scene for people that want to sell their house.
They see all shapes, sizes, forms, conditions of houses.
Right.
From just like a couple of boxes that somebody wants to get removed to full on. I feel like I saw on their social media a cooler full of feces. Like
Yeah.
they see so much stuff. It's insane.
Yeah, it's gross.
Yeah.
But a lot of times, and what I came to realize is that when people want to start the selling process, the first thing they think they need to do is clean the house out,
Yeah.
right?
Right.
And so the first people that they call are often junk removal companies. So in my head, I'm like, okay, I need to start forming a relationship with these junk removal companies and see if we might be able to work together. So instead of just cleaning the house out, they actually call me.
Which we're going to have them on the podcast.
Right. We will have them on the podcast. But they will actually call me and share the information with me, and we'll see if we can present an option to these sellers, right? These potential sellers that they didn't even know they had.
Right.
Right?
Right.
And so we nurtured those relationships. We have since bought many houses, right?
Several, yeah.
From the junk removal companies.
Yeah.
But for this particular house that we're talking about today, the lead came from the junk removal company. So they called me out. They got a call from this seller. The seller wanted to sell quickly. There was actually, the seller was in quite of a situation.
Yeah,
Right?
it was an emotional one for sure. It was
Right.
where they really were in a situation they needed help.
Right, right.
It was sensitive.
It was a super sensitive situation, but the key points here are the sellers needed money very quickly to pay some bills that they needed.
Yes.
The sellers also had a very specific number in their head that they knew they wanted for the house, and they didn't even know that I was an option at first.
Right.
Right? The
Right.
junk removal company brought me in. I got on the phone with the seller.
Well, they weren't even here on island either.
No. They had already moved on from the house to deal with the issues that they had to deal with. They were in Texas, actually.
Right.
And so I had a long conversation with the seller. I presented the options to them, that what we could do for them. We could literally check all those boxes. We could give them money quickly.
Yep.
We could take it exactly as it sat. And we'll
Right.
talk about what the condition was
Yes.
in a little bit.
Yes.
And I was able to give them the exact dollar amount that they wanted as well.
Right.
So-
and just be an easy transaction.
The easy button.
Not ask for credits, not ask for them to do anything, just buy the house.
Right.
No.
And so we came to an agreement, the seller and I, on what a price would be that we would pay for the house. And then I sent it over to you.
But was it that simple, or was there like a realtor involved, or did we have to get a realtor involved?
So in my conversation with the seller,
Yeah.
we had agreed on all of those things. And she then told me that she had also been speaking with a realtor.
Yeah.
And so I asked her who the realtor was. Just so happens I knew exactly who that realtor was.
Right.
Right? He does some business here. We know him very well. I also knew that if we had to deal with a realtor, we would want to also bring our own realtor in. And
Yeah.
I did it very strategically because I knew one of the realtors that we work with was really good friends.
Yeah, they were friends, so they already
with
had rapport with
the
each other.
listing realtor.
Right,
Like
right.
super good friends.
Right.
And so instead of me trying to prove my credibility, trying to prove to this realtor that maybe didn't know me
Yeah.
as well,
Right.
that I was a credible buyer, that I could actually buy the house,
Right.
I brought in this other realtor
Yeah.
who already had done business with us, and I let this realtor talk to their realtor.
And that's how we got the deal.
Yeah.
Closed. That's
Closed.
How we,
So that our realtor conveyed the everything that we had already been saying
Yeah.
to the seller, to this realtor. We worked out the contract and we bought the house a month later.
well, and it actually was a win-win-win, right? Because everyone got to get paid. Honestly, the seller got paid. Our realtor got a commission for representing us and helping close that deal, and then the seller's agent got paid,
Right. And I will throw a little caveat in there.
and our junk man got paid.
Well, that's what it is, right?
Yeah.
So the whole thing behind the Junkman crew is that they will refer us a lead,
Yeah.
and we will actually use them to clean the house out, and we pay them a referral fee. So they get paid for what they were going to do already, but also some money on top.
Yeah.
That being said, yes, everybody got paid on this transaction, but we would rather deal with no realtors
Yeah.
in transactions.
Anytime.
Because let me tell
Anytime.
you this.
Yeah.
All of that money that seller paid to the realtors could have went right back into their pocket.
100%. Well,
Yeah.
that's why we buy majority of our deals direct to seller.
Right.
So you said what happens next. So then honestly, a lot of the times what doesn't get talked about and what's not sexy is the escrow process, but it's the most stressful process.
I mean, it shouldn't be.
It shouldn't be,
Yeah.
but it once you have a team in place and you have systems and you have rapport with all your lenders, it can be an easy process. But so the first thing I did was reach out to our lender. I submitted the application for hard money, and then you start raising money because we needed gap funding to close for our portion. So then I started raising private money, and I think you put a 30-day close.
30-day.
30-day close. We did walkthroughs with contractors and our realtors. I got a survey done on the property, and then we closed. It actually, I say that escrow is stressful, and it can be. We've had recently a couple that were pretty stressful, but this one I can't say was that stressful. It was pretty easy. But the first thing we did was bring our junk man back, and it took them a couple of days. I think 2 days, 2 or 3.
2 or 3 days.
2 or 3 days to remove all the stuff. So the family during escrow had flown back and removed the items that they want that were keepsakes for them or that they found, they had emotional attachment to. And whatever was left was our kuleana. So I think there was, all the cars got taken, or at least majority of the cars got taken.
Yeah, they sold all those cars.
They sold those cars off, but there were still a few in the back. There was a shed that had like rats in it in the back.
Yeah. And stuff all over the house.
Stuff, I mean, in every room, random belongings, just a lot of stuff.
I think a total of 12 cars.
Or 12 truckloads got taken, or 12 cars?
No. 12 cars were
here.
in the house. Driveway.
Yeah.
Some were
in the garage.
Dude, some in the backyard had trees growing out of them.
Check it. Where we're sitting right now, there was at least 2 cars.
Yeah.
Like literally where we're sitting right now.
Totally. Yeah, it was crazy.
Yeah, it's crazy. So yeah, the junk man came in, took them 2 or 3 days. They had, I don't know how many truckloads. I kind of forget.
I feel like it was like 15 or 16. It was a lot. It was a lot of junk.
That's a lot.
Yeah.
And then we kind of just jammed. We started with demo.
Wait. We bought the property for $830,000.
Yes. Our initial, when we were walking with our contractor and not opening up everything, right? Our initial renovation budget was $230,000. So after the junk was all out and we could really kind of see what we were working with and have a blank slate, we started demo. Demo uncovered a lot of stuff.
Yeah, it did.
We knew we had to replace the roof because the roof literally had, it was a sunroof kind of a roof.
Sunroof, yeah. Caused by the elements.
It had so much deferred maintenance to the point where I know that after talking with the neighbors that are now our neighbors, he had been up there and put Geico on it and done what he could at the time, the previous owner. But what the house actually needed was a total restructure of a roof. So you literally have a box and you took the roof completely off and rebuilt
all
it.
The joists, all the posts, all the beams.
All the, everything.
Everything.
Yeah. Yeah. I remember walking into what is our son's room now, and it just had a massive hole in the ceiling.
Yeah.
And then there was holes in the garage, and then there was mold in the living room. And then I think there was another hole in Ya's room, actually.
Yeah, there was holes all over the roof. Yeah. There was holes all over the roof. There was like 5 inches of Geico that had been put on to fix the roof for probably 20 years.
So my contractor was really upset. Not upset, but when we started getting on the roof and ripping it off, it turned out to be way more labor intensive than we initially thought, because once they started ripping all these Geico layers off and then shingle layers, and then they finally got to the subroof, it turned out that the subroof was original, super old. It's not wood. What was it called?
It was like particle board, but it was like,
I forget. But it was like literally
layers,
almost a foot.
Yeah.
In depth.
Yeah.
And that's what they had on the subroof that he had to rip off.
Yeah.
And it took them, I think, 2 or 3 weeks to literally, and they were doing it by sections, ripping the roof off to the point where when you walked into the house, you just had sticks pretty much and no ceiling. Right. It was insane.
Yeah.
So that added to the cost because it wasn't just a normal rip off and replace. And we were adding an addition in order to, and you can talk about that.
Yeah. So when I was underwriting the deal initially, we had a small house. We had a 3-bedroom, 2-bath, and it was 1,100 square feet.
Yeah,
right. So
like
I was looking at comps in the area, and I realized, okay, if we're going to be able to give this seller what she wants for the house. And
Right.
that was my main concern.
Right.
If we're going to be able to do this, we cannot just renovate the existing structure
No.
and resell it, because
There
the
was enough
comps,
margin.
Right. The comps don't show that we'll be able to make a deal happen.
Yeah.
But I realized that if we had increased the square footage of the footprint,
Yeah.
then the comps significantly jumped up.
Yeah.
So in our underwriting, we had accounted for adding a studio.
Yeah. About like a one. It was like considered a 1-bedroom, 1-bath.
1 bedroom, 1 bath with a wet bar.
Yeah.
It could then be used as potential rental income for whoever bought the house.
Right.
Right. That's what our thinking was.
We use it as an office.
We now use it as an office.
podcast studio.
AKA this space right here, this studio. So we have a wet bar. It's about 700 square feet.
Something like that.
700 plus square feet.
Yeah.
So along with the addition, we also bumped out the house 5 feet
Yeah.
towards the backyard.
And we had to pivot midway right before we poured this, because originally we weren't going to do that. We weren't going to bump out towards the backyard. We were going to bump out to the side yard. But what we realized in that process, and so we had to change plans a little bit as far as our drawing and stuff, is we can't go that way because there's an easement. There's a sewer easement.
Right.
And so you have to have it's like a 5-foot setback. And
We had to double that because
Yeah,
of the
so we did
easement.
10.
So we need to be 10 feet back from our property line
Right.
because of that easement.
Right.
And we were originally going to do the addition all the way up to the 5-foot setback.
as much as we
close
could.
as we could.
Yeah.
So because we couldn't do that, we had to bump out the other
to
way.
keep a larger backyard.
Yep.
But turns out our backyard's perfect.
Yeah, it's monstrous anyway.
Speaking of the backyard, it used to be just like a rocky, kind of intense, very almost steep, not 90 degrees, a little less hill.
Yes.
And we built 2 massive retaining walls and pushed the backyard back and made it bigger,
Yeah.
which that was a massive undertaking.
If anyone knows this area, it is known for movement, right? So not only did we want to increase the backyard space, but
Yeah.
we wanted to make sure that we were not going to have any movement.
that our
We're
neighbor above us was not going
not gonna
nowhere.
fall into our property. Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. So in the end, we ended up with a house just shy of 2,000 square feet. And with that size house, we could make the deal work.
Yeah.
We could hit the comps that we needed to hit.
Yeah. So in addition to adding this 700 square foot addition, expanding the backyard, we also enclosed the garage, because before it was a 2-car carport, but we reworked it and totally enclosed it with a garage door and everything.
Right.
Which is massive. Big deal. We
Yes.
also took down that wall between the kitchen and the living room. It wasn't a full wall, but it was still a half wall, and so when you were in the kitchen, you couldn't see what was going on.
Right. And it was load bearing.
And that's where costs came up too, right?
Right.
And because we were reworking the roof, we already had a nice vault in the ceiling, but we made it a little higher.
Yeah.
We made it a higher vault, and then this is also where we made it a little special as well, because the original footprint of the house and the bedrooms, when you start walking down the hallway, they were vaulted too. But we were adding that addition, and I wanted a seamless roof line. So we had to pitch the roof higher than it currently was, so that it was seamless going from the original roof line all the way down to the new addition.
Right.
Which was fun trying to tell my contractor that's what I wanted.
Yeah. He loved you for that.
He
one.
loved me. But if you do come into our podcast studio and our addition, it's a seamless roof line, and it is pitched.
Yeah.
It's not a flat ceiling.
Right.
And we still have these massive, beautiful high ceilings down our hallways and in our bedrooms,
Right.
So
Right.
I think it was worth it.
Yeah, totally worth it.
And so I remember when we had to bring in that huge glue lamp and you wanted to be there.
Yep. It was interesting because we didn't use a typical joist or crane or anything.
No.
We had...
It was just sheer will and manpower.
But end result, we have a beautiful beam that goes the span of our living room
And
and
kitchen.
the span of our garage. So two big beams going
Two
across.
big beams.
They're
Yeah.
kind of like the highlight of our
They're
walk-in.
they're it for sure. And I remember you and I fighting about me wanting to stain it because I thought that it was really, really orange.
Yeah.
And it is.
Yeah.
Because I was like, it's gonna clash with the floors.
Right.
You were right.
Yeah. It worked out.
It looks great.
Yeah, I think it looks
So we
great,
just
too.
clear coated it and called it
Yeah.
a day.
Yep.
Yeah. What else about that renovations?
Yeah, no, I mean, I'm interested. What was your like design inspiration on this house? Because I want to tell like people the plan going into this property
Yeah.
was a fix and flip.
100%.
We were 100% going to do that.
We were in escrow to sell it.
Exactly. Yeah. So,
Yeah.
I mean, you were designing it. What was your like design inspo?
Well,
for this house?
I always, my design vibe, I guess, I always gravitate.
Gravitate is not a word, but I get what you're
I
saying.
gravitate towards very clean lines, very neutral colors, mid-century modern vibe, open concept. I love a black fixture, but I normally get my design inspo from a photo that I see, and it can be normally it's of a room in a house, but it can be of anything, and I run with that. But I knew Kailua had to be a little bit higher end because the ARV we were pushing was higher million,
Yep.
and so we had to go a little bit fun and fancy. So I knew we were going to do waterfall edges. I knew I wanted to do wall mount, fixtures, more expensive mirrors that are hardwired in. But I saw one picture of a shower where I found it on House.
I remember you showing me that picture. You're like, babe, this is the one.
This is it.
Yep.
And so it had stacked like a dark gray kind of tile with a glass door, a bench, and it was just gorgeous. I'll throw it up on Instagram. We'll make something for it. And I said, this is the vibe. This is what I want to go with. This is what I want to do. And it'd be cool actually to show you my inspo photo and then what our actual shower looks like.
It looks very similar.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
And so I kind of just built it from there. If it's hard to design for the masses because you can put your flair into it, but you still have to stay really neutral.
Right.
And like now, I knew I always wanted flat panel cabs. I wanted quartz backsplash and one that runs all the way up the ceiling, which ours goes all the way up our ceiling.
Right.
And our ceilings are 18, 20 feet?
They're high. They're definitely, they're high ceilings.
They're high.
Yeah.
But yeah, it all started from a picture of a shower.
Nice. Love
Yeah.
it. So I skipped over something that I want to make very clear. So during the underwriting,
Yeah.
right, the sellers wanted 830.
Mm-hmm.
We were able to give that with the addition that we were going to build.
Yeah.
We're planning to do a $230,000 renovation.
Yep,
And
that-
our ARV
Yeah.
was 1.55. That was what I thought we could sell the house for after we renovated it. I just
Yeah.
want to make that very clear. In the beginning, that's what we were looking at.
What time frame was this? I'm not good at months and stuff. I feel like it was around May of 2021
It was May or June. Yeah. May
when
or
we
June.
when we closed.
When we closed.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's when I was underwriting it.
Yeah. And so I think we went to market right after Thanksgiving. Like it
Yeah,
was a weird
5
time, right?
Right.
And it was right when we had that huge freaking rain and
Yes.
it ruined all of our landscaping
Yep.
that we spent $20,000 on.
Right.
Because we laid sod, in this backyard, it called for, and the price point called for beautiful sod, not plugs,
Right.
full sheets. And we had that massive rain where it and wind too,
Right.
ruined our fence,
Yep.
Our new-
Busted the whole vinyl fence.
busted
brand
the
new.
vinyl fence, flooded the grass to the
Yep.
point where it was just a mud pit. And we had to spend,
and
I think,
we were live on the market.
we were live on the market. Yeah.
We had an open house that weekend.
Yeah.
We had to scramble.
It was not fun.
Yeah.
And so that was an additional cost to fix it because it was it was labor intensive. Even our palm tree in the front fell over from the
Right. Yeah. We got uprooted out of the ground. Crazy.
literally.
Yeah.
So the renovation was about
Yeah. So what
Fi-
what did we?
5.5 months, but it wasn't without hiccups.
Yeah.
It wasn't without delays. It wasn't without pivots. Like, it wasn't a smooth reno by any means.
I don't think it was like the craziest reno that we've had, but it definitely was not a smooth one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we submitted all of our permits, right? And we put the last thing that was going up was our fence. And we had a fence permit too.
Yes.
And our contractor made a boo-boo and he put the front fence too high. Do you remember that?
Yes. Yep. You're only allowed to have a 6-foot fence.
Yeah.
Right?
And I think he had it like,
He had it like
7.
It was like most amateur thing. Like
But
it's
it
so
looked
stupid.
amazing.
Yeah, it did. It looked. I was like, wow, that privacy fence is really tall. But little did I know it was 7 feet and not 6 feet.
Right.
So
then we went to market right after Thanksgiving, and we got multiple offers, and we got them like a range. One at asking what did we go to market at? What price did we list?
So we went to market at $1,675,000.
Yeah, so that's what we listed at.
So just for reference, remember in the beginning I told you we thought we were going to sell the house for 1.55. That was our ARV. So because in that 5-month period, the market had been continuously growing, right? Where we were in like the craziest market ever. We now knew that we could list for over $100,000 more at 1,675. We had one house that closed across the street from us.
Yeah.
That sold for 1,560, and it was
not done with the finishes that we put in the home.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, and then we got multiple offers, even with the weather, people were still coming out and checking out the house.
Right.
I think we got anywhere from asking to all the way to $2 million, right? Yep. The highest one was 2
million,
which we didn't take, but we took one that was all cash. At what price, babe?
At 1.9.
So our initial reno budget was $230. That's funny. We blew that budget out of the freaking water, like by almost $100,000. Like, it was ridiculous for so many reasons. For having to almost redo all the landscaping, to having to extend the house this way, to me wanting the roof line, and to that's kind of it, right?
Yeah, but I mean, I think it's important for everyone to note that the only reason there were some of those things that we just had to do,
right?
But a lot of those things and that cost was calculated.
Yeah.
And I say that because while we're in these projects, things are constantly changing, right? The market's changing.
Yeah.
Houses are coming on the market and they're selling, right? Like comps are.
Right.
So we keep a very close eye on the market while we're in the project.
Yeah.
And we knew that the market was going up. We knew that we were going to sell this house for more. So it made sense for us to put more money into the renovation.
Yeah. No, totally. And just shit happens. You know what I mean?
Yeah. There was definitely some things that we had to do no matter what.
And I will admit that I was emotionally attached to this house from the beginning. For multiple reasons.
I 1,000% understand and know that. I think we must have had 15 conversations where
throughout the course
of the renovations where we went back and forth with selling this house.
Yeah.
Selling or keeping.
Yeah, because for many of you probably know, but for those that don't, I went to Kailua High School. My mother went to Kailua High School, and I grew up on Duck Road, which is 2 streets over.
Yep.
And so we're literally 2 minutes from my mom's house. My parents are super involved in my kids' lives, watch them, yada, yada. And we're actually closer to your parents now.
Yeah, my parents live right down the road in Kaneohe. And
we dreamed. It was both of our dream.
Right.
And we had been writing it for years, that we wanted to own a home in Kailua.
Yeah.
Me personally, it had been on my affirmations that I wrote for a year. I will be a homeowner in Kailua. I will be a homeowner in Kailua. And so I think it's funny when you try to control your situations, God just kind of laughs when he has other plans.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what happened in a very headache way, but that's totally what happened. So up until this year, we were renting. We had rented our entire,
Well, since I knew you, we were renting.
yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, my entire adult life, I was renting. We weren't homeowners. I used to live in Diamond Head, and then we got
Moved
together.
to Point Sienna Manor in Kailua. We're renting a small little condo, and then we moved into a 4-bedroom house in Enchanted Lakes
After
that
we
were
had our
also
kids.
renting.
Yeah.
Right, we had both our kids there,
Yeah.
and yeah,
For years and years.
right. So we've been doing this whole real estate journey
Yeah.
while
renting.
we were renting.
Yeah.
Right.
But in that process, people thought we were crazy because this wasn't the first real estate that we owned. This house wasn't the first real estate that we owned. We actually acquired other rentals. But I feel like you and I did that very strategically where we wanted our rentals to pay for our mortgage.
Yeah, we wanted our cash flow to pay for our mortgage.
Yeah.
So we were renting, but we were also accumulating assets that cash flowed.
Yeah.
And so we were just waiting to get to a point where
Yeah.
we were going to be able to pay our entire mortgage from our cash flow and get into a house.
And I know a lot of our family just did not understand that.
No,
They're like,
not
why
at
are
all.
you buying rentals and you're still renting? Like,
Yeah.
what are you doing? You
Right.
know?
Yeah.
You're paying somebody else's mortgage. You're just throwing money away. What are you doing?
Yeah. Well, it doesn't make sense to all of them. But it made perfect sense to us.
Right. So what happened when we were in escrow? Because we were going to sell it. And we were super excited with the offer that we got. And it was super strong.
Yeah, and we had signed our closing docs.
We had signed our closing
It was
docs.
gonna happen,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
So we mentioned earlier that we had pulled all the permits for this house,
Yep.
correct?
Yes.
So one thing that you guys probably already know if you're listening to this podcast, because it means that you like real estate and you probably do real estate in Hawaii,
Yeah.
is one of the biggest hurdles that we always have to overcome is the Department of Planning and Permitting.
Dun, dun, dun.
DPP.
Yeah.
So if you know anything about it, the process takes forever, right? Now with the new implementation of e-plans,
It's even longer.
right, you don't even get your permit seen for 3 months. Nobody even looks at it, right?
Pre-approval process.
Right. So anyway, we have to deal with all of these things. For this house, we had pulled a bunch of repair permits, but we were obviously adding square footage and we needed that to reflect on tax records.
Absolutely.
So we had to pull an addition alteration permit.
Yep.
Luckily, throughout the process, we had a very good relationship with the inspector. We had submitted.
It was very smooth up until the end.
So smooth.
It was
Addition
beautiful.
alteration permit.
Yeah.
The inspector understood and realized
What was
that
happening.
DPP is a very slow process. He allowed us to work while the permit was going through the approval process.
Right.
No complaints, everything good. He comes and checks in on us all the time. So we finish everything. We're to the end.
We're literally almost done with the house.
We're done. Our addition alteration permit is still in the process.
Probably right now, yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And so
It's been a year.
almost a year.
Yeah. Yeah.
Crazy.
Yeah.
And this is something that we have to deal with DPP. I feel like we could have one of these talk story sessions just about that.
Oh, yeah.
That would be juicy.
That would be super juicy.
Yeah. So anyway, we are in escrow to sell the house.
Yeah.
And we get a call from the inspector.
Yeah. I remember that so clearly. The house was being staged
Right.
by Nina, bless her heart, love her.
Yeah. The best.
She was staging the house, and the inspector came to the house and started asking her questions. My poor stager, she had no idea. She's like, I'm just trying to make the house look pretty. And I think our agent was there too, or he stopped by. But so
Yep.
the stager called me and she's like, there's this guy here. And I was like, okay, what happened? Trying to walk her through it, have him call me, whatever. But turns out that he complained about a couple things, but a neighbor had been complaining.
Right.
And this was news to us because we're friends with all of our neighbors. Like all of our neighbors are amazing, beautiful people.
Right.
Like amazing.
So I don't even know if I'd consider him a neighbor. This guy lives
on another street.
on another street, like 3 houses down.
Yeah. I mean, I think we should put it out for a poll. Like, who do you consider your neighbor? Isn't it the people next to you and across the street from you that you can physically see their houses and you see them every day? And
Yeah.
no?
Yeah.
Okay, well, that wasn't this guy. This guy didn't even share a street name with us.
Right, exactly.
But towards the end of the renovation, he started making things a little difficult.
Yeah.
Right? And he apparently had been calling DPP just complaining that we were working too late, making too much noise, and didn't have a permit. Right?
Right.
Which,
Let me clarify.
Yeah, clarify.
Didn't have an approved permit. So what happened is this guy went online,
Yeah.
looked up our address,
Yep.
and checked to see if we had all the permits in place.
yeah.
If you do that, you can see that we have an addition alteration permit in the system that's being processed.
Yeah.
Right?
Yep.
Technically, it hasn't been approved yet, but we had been talking with the inspector. He knew
You're still
that it was in
doing
process.
what you're supposed to be doing.
That's it.
And it's important to note that you're not doing anything illegal.
Right.
You
Right. So he complained to the inspector that our permit wasn't approved yet.
But babe, did he call one time?
This guy was calling DPP all the time. It ended up getting escalated to the boss of our inspector.
And so that is why the inspector came by the house, because he was essentially saying, dude, it's out of my control already. This guy is almost harassing us and he's harassing you. And he came to the point where he was harassing us too.
Right.
Yeah. Where I had to get my attorney involved. And
Right.
I've never done that before. It's
So on the
insane.
listing, we listed the house. The wife of the complainer,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Of the neighbor that was complaining. I'm
Yeah.
not going to say neighbor, but person that was complaining. Sent us, sent our realtor, an email
Yes.
saying that we didn't have permits, we didn't have this. Does he know that he's
Yeah.
selling a house that blah
That's
blah blah?
what- yeah.
Yeah, so it was a nightmare.
Yeah, and it got to the point where, like I said, I had to call our attorney and say, hey, this person could literally hinder my business. He's harassing me at this point. He doesn't understand, or they don't understand what it is we have already done to be in compliance with everything. And I don't understand where this is coming from. Please send them a letter and tell them to leave us alone. Because it was getting ridiculous.
Yeah.
He was harassing our contractors. He was harassing our landscapers, screaming profanities at them, driving by, calling the police on us.
Yeah. Every day.
It was bad.
Yeah, it was nuts.
So we got a violation issued because it got escalated over the inspector's head. And that's the one thing that if you're cool with your neighbors, and in our case we were, this guy, I guess you got to go 2 streets up and make sure everybody knows down that way that you bought the house, because go a street above. That's our due diligence now.
Right.
That it got escalated, so we got a violation on the property.
Right.
Now, if you can sell a property with an open permit, we've done it several times.
Yes.
And there's things you can do to make sure that the sellers feel secure in the transaction.
Right.
Most do, though, because they see it's permitted, and everybody knows DPP is a nightmare. And a lot of people don't, I'm sorry, but my opinion is a lot of people don't care.
Right.
Right? Anyway, so towards the end of the escrow, it came out, right? And we already disclosed that this was happening,
Right.
but the sellers didn't like it. They got cold feet and they pulled out on the day we were supposed to close.
Right. On the day we're supposed to close. So we're up in San Diego.
And I remember that was a very emotional, sad, stressful, glorious weekend, like all in one.
Yeah, totally. It was a blessing and a curse.
Yeah.
A curse and a blessing. But
Not a curse anymore.
not anymore. I mean, it's obviously
Felt very dark then.
There was the best silver lining. But anyway, we were in San Diego. We get the call. The buyers backed out. We sat down with each other. We had a very You know what? I wouldn't even want to say it was like a tough conversation.
Well, I remember you clearly walking into the room. I was in the room relaxing on the bed. You walked into the room and you said, "I guess we're gonna buy the house."
Yeah.
And
I
I said,
guess we're keeping the house.
we're keeping the house
Yeah.
because we had talked about it throughout the course of the escrow.
Right.
I mean, not escrow, but the whole project that
Yeah.
we should keep it. Like, are you
Right.
sure you want to sell it? And I said they backed out, and you're like, "Yep." And I just had so many different emotions. It was almost like relief.
Yeah. I felt the same way. It was crazy. Like I got the call from Sean, and then I almost felt like a weight lifted off my shoulder.
Yeah.
So I mean, I understand that it was meant to happen.
Yeah.
Like 100%. This is exactly what God wanted to happen to us.
Yeah.
And he laid the path like clearly.
Yeah.
It was clear, right?
Well, it's hilarious because it's funny now that you think like, oh no, we're gonna sell it. We have to sell it. We need the profits of this flip to fund our business and to grow our business. And like, this is just a stepping stone. This is what we need to do. And the whole time, like everything was just aligning to be like, no, this is your forever home. And you think that you're in control and you're absolutely not.
Yeah.
And now we've been living in this house since like February. We ended up refinancing it, doing a full cash out refi. We had to refinance twice because of stupid seasoning and whatever.
Yeah.
Luckily, we refied right before rates started jumping up, so we still got a decent rate.
Right.
And we couldn't have done it without the support and the help of family. Really, I remember calling my mom and my dad in San Diego, just bawling my eyes out. What am I going to do? This is what we want to do. Do you guys support us?
Right.
Because we need support. We need
Yeah.
help. We need you to believe that this is what we're doing. Like, am I making the right decision?
Right.
And hands down, they're just like, yep, let's do it.
Yeah.
So that definitely helped get us through it.
Yeah, I mean, it's so crazy to think about now. Obviously, we had hard money and private money on this. So
Yeah.
our main concern was that we needed to pay back our hard money lender and our private money lender plus their interest.
Yep.
And we needed to do that. So the house needed to appraise for enough that we could cash out all of that money.
Right. And when you're doing cash out refis, you can only cash out 75% of whatever the appraised value is.
Correct.
And we knew what the market was doing. We were very in tune with that, right? We had literally just fallen on an escrow. We knew that the people and the market was willing to pay 1.9 for our house.
Right.
So we knew
we knew it wasn't going to appraise for 1.9.
Right.
We understood that.
Right.
But we knew that we would appraise for enough to be able to pull out all of the money for our hard money lender and private money lender. And
Yeah.
we ended up doing that. So
Yeah. So we initially refied once, pulled out, paid off our hard money lender plus their interest. He was thrilled. And that's the joy of having good relationships with your lenders, because he was super supportive
Right.
of us pivoting at the tail end too, right?
Yeah.
And then we had to season the loan that we had for 30 days.
Yeah.
And then we had to do the cash out portion.
right.
And I remember with appraisals, man, I'm telling you, when you start doing refis, like appraisals can either make or break a deal.
Right.
So we had our first appraisal done and appraised at what price?
We appraised at 1.740.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Beautiful number. We were super thrilled with that.
Right.
We had to do a second appraisal because of the seasoning, and they wouldn't take it again, even though they said they would. And it appraised for what price?
I think it was like 167
7.9 or something like that.
or
It was
something.
just ridiculous. So like
Yeah.
in the craziest market in the United States, or I don't know about the country. I don't know. I don't follow real estate outside the country, but our house, beautiful brand new house, lost value.
Lost value in 30 days.
Like, come on.
So it's kind of crazy, but it just gives you perspective on appraisers and how subjective they can be.
Right.
We have other experiences that we will share eventually where,
Yeah.
we
Same
have one
thing.
appraiser come in, they appraise it for super low. Another appraiser comes in, appraises for like way higher. And you're like, what is going on? You know what
Yeah,
I mean?
like what the hell?
Yeah, it's so crazy.
But then we refied again, and the deal still worked to pull out all of our private money lenders' money.
I think we actually had some left over.
We did. We
Yeah.
had about $30,000 left over.
Right.
So I didn't fight the appraiser. I said, babe, let's get a lower mortgage. Let's lock in the rate. You know, our mortgage payment will be lower. We can still cash out what we need.
Right.
And we're still getting paid. It's like a win.
Literally getting paid to live in this house.
Yeah.
Right.
So then we were able to pull out, pull out what we needed to pay off our first mortgage.
Yeah.
That wasn't hard money anymore.
Right.
And our private money, which was second.
Yep.
I think we paid him. I mean, he had lent like $280,000 or something like that.
Right. Yeah.
So we paid him plus his interest.
Yep.
And we had $30K left over.
Yeah. It was crazy because now we have a brand new house that we poured all of our love and aloha into.
Yeah.
Right? We designed it. You designed it. You loved the design. Like everything just lined up. The stars all aligned. God laid the path out. We walked through it with help.
Yeah.
Huge help
Yeah.
with family. Like literally we would not be able to do this. We're entrepreneurs. We don't make a ton of W-2 income.
Yeah.
We needed help to refi. We knew we could handle the mortgage payment easily.
Yeah.
But for the banks, like they want to see, right, certain things. So with a lot of help, we were able to get paid to move into our dream house in our dream location that we'd both been manifesting for the last 2 years, right?
Yeah.
And yeah, I mean, it was wild. It's still wild. It's surreal.
It's still surreal. It's still amazing. It's everything that I ever dreamed of.
Yeah.
And can't do it without family. If my mom wasn't, my mom and dad weren't willing to be like, yeah, I'll sign on the dotted line. All you needed was
cosign.
We just needed a
cosign.
signature.
All we needed was a cosign. We needed no money. We were fine financially to cover our mortgage. And you know what's crazy is that earlier in this thing, we were talking about accumulating rentals to pay for our mortgage. That was our plan, right? That's why we were still renting.
Yeah.
And fun fact, our cash flow right now pays for the entirety of the mortgage for this house.
And then some,
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So we're
it's just proof. It's funny too. I think that it all clicked for maybe my family too, right? Because they didn't understand what we were doing, and then they're like, "Oh shit, all right, makes sense," you know.
Yeah.
I know we're 2 minutes away.
Yep.
And we get to raise our kids in Kailua, where we're both from, where we're 5 minutes from the beach, where we have a backyard for them to play in. Like, it's just the power of real estate.
Yeah, it's just crazy.
Well, I always knew we weren't going to buy a house conventionally. Like, the minute you step down into this fix and flip real estate vortex, like, there's no way you're going to go on the MLS, have a realtor show you houses,
buy a house that's totally fixed up for above market value.
Well, and go and get a conventional loan and put 10, 3, 5, 10% down. Like that was never in the cards for us.
No,
never.
I mean, essentially, we bird this house.
We did a full burr on this house.
We didn't rent it out, right?
Well, we rent it out to our company.
Yeah, so I mean, the addition we rent out to our company.
Yeah.
But like we're living in it. So
yeah.
But yeah, I think that is a good example of the power of real estate and
what's possible if you buy deals correctly, if you pivot, if you never give up, and
yeah, I think in the end we're just like normal people. Right? Yeah. Are you? Well, you're special. But, I mean, we don't have, like, crazy superpowers, right?
No.
And
we don't come from, like, intense backgrounds of...
Right. And it's just about hard work and consistency and finding the right vehicle. We've found the right vehicle in real estate, right?
Yeah.
And that's what has allowed us to get into this position, right, with this house. And it's what's allowing us to build something crazy special for our family and our kids.
Yeah. It's pretty cool.
Yeah.
So that's the story
That's it.
of Ileana. I'm
Right.
sure there might be questions. You know, when you and I are just shooting this shit, we probably miss some stuff.
Yeah.
So if there are questions, just drop them in the comments. We'll answer them. Like we're pretty open books, as you can see.
We're gonna do this a lot more often. So deep dive into
but
deals.
we're
but
gonna
maybe
come up
just
with like a freaking cool name for it or something. But
Yeah.
but I think it's more talking story with each other about deals, struggles, life, whatever.
right.
Like just smaller segments. Yeah.
Yeah. So I guess you have to like, subscribe,
Follow.
and follow. I guess all of our social media platforms. we're at Kamohai and Tristyn.
Yep.
On everything.
Yep.
And we'll see you on the flip side.
See you on the flip side.
Peace.
Peace.
It's all good. Get,